How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
What is up, Will?
What up?
How you doing, brother? You doing all right?
Doing all right.
Another,
it was an exhausting weekend.
It was exhausting. Welcome, everybody, to Story of the Fight. My name's Romero. That's my boy, Will. And this is where we talk all things mixed martial arts. We got Richie Casual, our producer, in the background, doing his thing. And look, I agree with. Oh, hey, Rich, look at him.
Whoa!
Quick appearance. But it was an exhausting weekend, and it was an exhausting
more so for
weekend
you probably
because of the nerves, the anxiety, the stress that's put on us. So the more that we spend time in this quote unquote business, right? What's up, HOB Comer? Thanks for joining us. Saying, what is up, bitches? What is up? What is up? But the more we get to know some people within the fight game, right? And the more that we start feeling closer connections to these folks, and we had some action this weekend.
Yeah, and it gets stressful.
It gets so
stressful.
We had a UFC on, right? And that was an interesting card. But then we also had our boy, friend of the podcast. He's hopped on a couple times. We've interviewed him. He's filled in for you when you're on your escapades. Mr. Landry Ward had a big fight in LFA. We also had Andrew Toste fighting for Uriah Faber's A1, and he's filled in for me, for you. Dude, when I tell you I'm nervous, that's an understatement.
Yeah, dude.
The nerves,
I was like, and you were there. You were at LFA, so
I was
can only
at
imagine.
LFA. It was we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
When we get to that. Right now, let's start off with one of the most anticipated cards in UFC history, which was UFC Fight Night, Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, the UFC, they went to London. They went back to London like last year, and it was like insane. It was like the perfect event. Like it went as perfect as it could have went. And they go back, and it's like, it's still pretty good, not quite as good. And then they go back a third time, and they're like, "Hey, we made all this good grace with the UK fans. Let's jack up ticket prices and put on a super lackluster card for them."
It was interesting,
crazy.
Man. Look, I will say this though, I've been talking up Tom Aspinall already for years. You can go back and take a look at the footage, right? We've been talking about him for quite some time. His ability to move like a middleweight at the heavyweight division. His speed, his footwork, his power. This guy has got it all. I truly, truly believe that it's not a matter of if, it's when he becomes a champion.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
I was thinking the same thing until he blew out his ACL, and I was like, man, that's a big boy. He's going to come back from knee surgery. Is that going to like completely alter his path?
We don't know.
How's he going to look? And then he came back and just looked flawless. So it was like, okay, yeah, it's still inevitable. It's still coming.
He looked amazing, man. And look, I'm not saying that Tybura is coming in here and he's like a top 3 fighter, top 4 fighter himself, But this is smart from the UFC. Like, don't put him right in there again with the blades.
Yeah.
Don't put him in right away with another top 3, top 4 contender.
Are you saying the UFC should give up tune-up fights?
Dude, they should do that a little more often.
What a concept, huh?
But I think
no disrespect to Tybura. I like Tybura, actually.
I like Tybura, too. But, hey, again, Tom Aspinall, great footwork. He starts off with that head kick right off the bat.
And almost got him out of there.
You're wondering, how are his legs? And he's like, oh, they're pretty good. Watch me throw this head kick real quick. Pop!
Yeah.
Catches Tybura.
Yeah.
Right?
Got the guard up, but it, like, knocked him 3 feet to the side. It's like, oh, Jesus.
Oh,
and then it was just full steam ahead. I don't know what he did. Everybody has like different warm-ups and stuff, and some people say, oh, they didn't warm up enough, or maybe they warmed up too much. Whatever he did was like the sweet spot, because he started like it was already round 2. You know what I mean? Like, there was no feeling out. He threw a high kick to a punch and was like, let's go. And Tybura was like, all right, cool. I can do that too. And he came in and they had a little flurry, and I was like, this is heavyweight. this is why heavyweight's good, because they just kind of stood in the pocket for a second, cracked each other, and then it was after that, it was just Tybura missing on punches, and then Aspinall just piecing him up and exiting. It was his hand speed is crazy fast. His footwork is good, obviously, especially for a heavyweight, but the hand speed is like next level at heavyweight.
It's elite. It's elite, man.
It's
and
really,
that quick,
really good.
The picture that Rich put up right now is a picture where he hits him with a 1-2, right?
Yeah.
And he lands that jab perfectly, and right behind that comes that right hand, which really hurt Tybura.
Sat him down, yeah.
Didn't
just sit him down, but like knocked him down. Like it was like, who was it? Was it Big John McCarthy who talked about how there's stages to knockdowns, and what he sees in a knockdown will determine like what his reaction is, right? Like put the hands, like if they fall in their butt with their hands back, that's like the first level of a knockdown, right? You're still conscious, like you just got kind of flashed for a second. Yep. And that's almost what Tybura did. It was set back on his butt. But if you notice, he didn't really get his hands down. Like it was kind of like an in-betweener, stage 1 and stage 2 from the John McCarthy scale.
An in-between.
HLB Comer says he looked good, but let's be honest, this is the fat boy division. Any real heavyweight that is in shape will have good chance. Having said that, I want to see him fight Gane, because that's the thing, right? The fat boy division. But there's a couple guys in there that like there's a clear separation at heavyweight, like a very clear separation of like who's elite and who's fat boy division, right? I mean, like he's right. Like that's exactly what this division is. But Aspinall clearly is like the cream of the crop. So is Gane, I would say. They're like exceptions to the fat boy division. I'll go ahead and say this: I'm not super mad about it, but it was an early stoppage, right? Am I wrong to think that? They showed the replay. None of the punches landed. The follow-up punches, Tybura was kind of just blocking for a second. There was only like 3 or 4 punches before they called it, and it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I said,
I'm not mad about it. It's not like the worst.
Because I still think the ref kind of did Tybura a favor there. It was going to be a long night for him, I think. Probably. But hey, so like HLB Comer said, right? So we take a look at the top 5, though. You have Sergey, Cyril Gane, Stipe Miocic, Curtis Blades, and Tom Aspinall.
Yeah.
From there, you got Tai Tuivasa, who's a lot of fun to watch.
Very fun.
Alexander Volkov, who's on and off, right?
He's
so hot and
going
cold.
Up and down.
Sergey Spivak, Jalton
Promising.
Almeida.
Almeida's climbing, and he'll get there.
Almeida's climbing. And then you have Marcin Tybura. So yeah, the competition after 5 definitely drops off, and there's a huge delta between the top 5 and the champion, and then the 6 through 10. So it's either way, good showing. And I know we've talked about it before, but when you have a fighter like Aspinall going up against a fighter like Tybura, and you're like, okay, Aspinall should be able to run through Tybura. And so when he does run through him, you're like, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
He did what he was supposed to do. Whereas if back and forth, he struggles, like, Tybura like has a good showing. Yeah, exactly. Like, so even though
put some doubt in your head.
Yeah, even though he won, we expected him to win. He won in the fashion that we expected him to win. He should have won. So
exactly.
Props to Aspinall either way, especially coming back after that ACL injury.
Yeah, kind of surprising he called out the winner of the Cyril Gane fight. I guess he still wants another like step. He should have. I think he could have called out. Let's be real. So HLB Comer, we'll talk about it in a second. He said, anybody give any chance to Stipe against the GOAT? That fight's going to happen, and it's looking like both of them are going to retire after that. So there's going to be a vacant title fight. If and maybe it's just you say this in the cage, but then behind the scenes, if I'm Tom Aspinall, I'm angling for that vacant title shot next. He should he shouldn't be fighting, and maybe that's what he is by saying the winner of the Gane fight, because because that'll probably end up being for the vacant belt. But yeah, Stipe against John Jones, it's tough, man, because like he doesn't have much of a shot in my opinion as of right now, but we didn't really get to see a lot of questions answered in the John Jones heavyweight fight, right? Because he just kind of steamrolled through Cyril Gane pretty quickly. But he looked a little like underwater a little bit, but also there was like a weird start where he couldn't quite get the toe tape or whatever right there, and then he gets kicked in the nuts immediately, and so it's like, is John Jones heavyweight slow, or is it just some weird feeling out process at the beginning of a fight, and we never got to see him fully get into gear? That's going to be interesting. But then on the flip side, Stipe hasn't fought in like 2 years or something like that, and he's 43 years old or something crazy. So like,
Yeah,
it's going to be it's an uphill battle for old Stipe.
that's the big question mark, right? It's just
Yeah.
he hasn't been as active, and if you're Stipe, you're
Neither has
go
John.
for it.
Yeah.
No, you're right. But John in between isn't firefighting.
Yeah,
he's actually
true.
starting
Maybe
fires.
that's a good thing. Yeah,
He's
he's starting
fires.
fires.
Yeah, he's causing a need for first responders, while Stipe is a first responder. But
Yeah,
those
yeah.
both require different types of energy.
Yeah, that's true.
So, oh man, poor John. We just
Yeah, HB
rag
Comer
on him all the
says
time.
Aspinall has to fight somebody. He can't go for the title right away. I don't know who he fights next. He just won, so he's got to fight up. I don't think they're going to do the Curtis Blades rematch.
I was gonna say the only other person would be Curtis Blades. Outside of that, you have Stipe and John Jones, which, if they both retire, leaves the winner of Cyril Gane versus Sergey.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you're not gonna go Cyril Gane or Sergey, whoever wins, versus Curtis Blades at that point. I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, Curtis Blades just got knocked out in the first round. I doubt they're going to want to use this hype of Aspinall running through Tybura to jump over him. It's for sure going to be the winner of Cyril Gane versus Sergey.
And we talk about the fights that the UFC set up for this London crowd, but the London crowd was still amazing, man. Like,
yeah, and for not even a sold out show, that's crazy, right? When's the last time the UFC didn't sell out a stadium?
The hype that they bring along with that London crowd is just awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's got to be some of the more like fun events to go to, right? Anytime they go somewhere where they don't go like regularly, you could tell like the crowd, like it's like it appreciates the opportunity to go see one,
Yeah, no, for sure. Versus
even when they go to like Idaho, like when they go to like some random, like no offense.
Yeah,
but, like,
well, some call it the London of the United States is Idaho.
Idaho, yeah.
That's what they say. So, but all right, man. Anything else on that fight?
No. Very excited to see what Aspinall does next.
Samesies. All right. We also had Molly McCann versus Stoliarenko. Meatball Molly.
What co-main, huh?
Hey, dude, but if you're bringing anybody to London to co-main an event, let it be Meatball Molly.
Yeah, I just feel like it probably should have been like the opener of the main card.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
That would have made more sense. But either way, you got Meatball Molly, who always brings excitement. She brings the energy. She brings the passion, man. How can you not enjoy watching Meatball Molly fight? If you go back, Rich, you got to watch some of Meatball Molly's fights when she first started getting into the UFC. Those are pretty fun. After they start throwing decent competition her way, it's a different story. But watching Meatball Molly in her introductory rampage was a lot of fun.
That was a fun rampage.
It was. But, man, right off the bat, Stoliarenko said, I am not going to let Meatball Molly get settled in. I'm going to bring the pressure nonstop, because that's what Meatball Molly likes to do. She likes to sit back a little bit. She has that big right hand, a la Josh Emmett, where we know what it is. We know what's coming, and she steps into that right hand, and she landed it a couple times. Yeah. But if you're pressuring nonstop and you're just up in her face, it's kind of hard for her to cock that right hand back and throw it as wide as she does and still landing the target, right? So
yeah, no, true. And HB Comer says exactly what I was going to say. You can't make this up. Her opponent had one way to win the fight, and Molly fell right into it. Loved it. Yeah, Stoliarenko has like 10 armbar wins. Her only wins in the UFC are by armbar. I think this is actually her only her second UFC win. I think she was 1-4 in the UFC going into this fight. And as soon as they end up on the ground, you see her start working towards it, and you're like, oh no. And then Molly rolls into it deeper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was like, what are you doing?
Well, it's tough. Who knows? It might have already been because she had like the Russian, like the belly down armbar, right? And Molly rolled into it to make it deeper. But in those positions, that belly down armbar, it's so hard to know like how hyperextended it is, right? It could have already been like she might have already been like, I'm about to tap to this. Let me just try anywhere I can feel
Last minute
momentum
ditch
in my
effort.
favor. Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to clown on her too much for the role, but
Well, the thing you do see though is
it was
when
hilarious.
Stoliarenko's belly down, and they're fighting, and you see Molly's hand great
Yeah,
grip.
yeah.
And so at that point, you're right. She's probably thinking like, look, my grip already broke. It's just a matter of time. Let me try to escape any way possible.
And that belly down armbar is dangerous, man, because like the weight of whoever's armbarring you is on the joint at that point. A normal armbar, you're belly up, right? And you're bending the arm back. There's nothing pressing down on it other than your leverage. But a belly down armbar, you're on the joint. Your whole body weight's on the joint. So like it's a scary position, man. HW Comer says, look at her. She could have kicked off the fence. That's actually where, if she kicked off the fence, she would have been back in the same position she started in. Because she went up and over to get to that position, which she would have just went right back into the belly down armbar.
And HB Comer is comfortable with giving her a hard
time
since she deserves it. Her ego was out of control. Hey, man.
Walking around with the fake belt was hilarious. To do that and then just to go on and like lose all your next fights is pretty bad, dude.
Oh man, that is pretty funny. But hey, either way, always fun to watch. I'm a fan of Molly.
Look, this was an entertaining fight, but it should not have been a co-main event.
In London, though,
still
in front of her home crowd.
No.
Okay. Sorry, Molly. I'm trying. Dude. I'm trying, Molly.
Paul Craig versus André Muniz could have been a co-main. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. All right.
You're 1-4 in the UFC, and you're in a co-main spot.
That's crazy. Thanks to me, Molly.
And the only win you have is against your girl, who just gets armbarred by everybody, and got cut because of it.
Dang.
And you're in the co-main.
Rough, dude. Rough.
Yeah.
Hey, can't win them all. You know what I mean? Unless you're John.
Can't win them all. Unless you're John Jones, and even then, Matt Hamill.
Got DQ. All right, man. We can move on to the next one. We had Mr. Wood versus Mr. Fili going at it.
This was good fights.
The funnest fight, I thought, in the entire night.
Yeah, at least the most back and forth, like,
which made it fun.
No, definitely, yeah. Like, man, you just see glimpses of André Fili when he gets in a flow state, and he's like ripping, and he's using his footwork and his head movement, and it's fun to watch. And he's struggling just getting over the finish line a little bit.
When he's moving like Conor McGregor and tough,
yeah,
like you just see him flowing, dude. Yeah, he's feeling it.
He in the second round, he hit a jab, duck, roll into a leg kick, an outside leg kick that was so slick that I was just like, man, André Fili, when he puts it all together, he's so fun to watch, and he just kind of struggles to get it over the finish line. But man, Nathaniel Wood also on the flip side is fantastic, and he's been out because of that injury, right? But every time he fights, his style is very interesting because it's super, super, super like orthodox and like standard. He's a very standard style fighter, but he has these little tricks. He didn't really do it in this fight, but he has a lot of like foot traps where he'll land some trips on the inside when you think you're striking with him. We didn't really get to see that because I think André Fili is so good at fighting on the outside that he doesn't really get into those mix-ups.
Such a good job, finding a nice range for himself.
Yeah, until he gets a little careless, and Nathaniel Wood cracks him with the left hook. I mean, the first and second round were like mirrors, because the first round it starts off, André Fili hurts Nathaniel Wood, and you're like, oh wow, and then like in the first like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, he hurts him, right? And then Nathaniel Wood gets back into it, and then absolutely clobbers André Fili, and has Fili in all sorts of danger there in the first round. And then you're like, oh man, probably, edge that round to Wood, even though he got dropped in the first 30 seconds, but he ended up doing more damage in his in the game. They call it a health scenario or something like that. But when he hurt André Fili, was much more damaging than vice versa. But then The second round starts, and Nathaniel Wood cracks him with that left hook over the top. He had a nice combo, left hook to the body, left hook up top, and he hurt André Fili. That might be it. Good job, Rich. And you're like, oh man, momentum's in Nathaniel Wood's favor. But then you see in that second round, André Fili starts to get in that flow state. He lands that jab, that roll, outside leg kick, steps back, and then as Wood's coming in, he actually opens up on a full combo, and André Fili just slips right out of range, hits him with that left hook, and then it like wobbles him, and then he does a great job of capitalizing on it because he didn't really in the first round. Grabs him, Muay Thai knees in the Thai clinch, and drops him with the knees. And when you're like, how hurt was he? He was so hurt that in the post-fight interview, Nathaniel Wood was like, yeah, I don't know what he got me with. I think I might have slipped. And it's like,
oh, no, bro.
No. You did not slip, my friend.
You were definitely hurt.
Yeah. And then the third round was kind of, you could tell both of them were like, I've been hurt in each round. Both of them had been hurt in the first round and the second round. And it was more of like a point fighting third round. I agree with HLB Comer. Wish we got 2 more rounds of that fight. Exactly.
100%.
After that third round, they kind of slowed down a little bit. If there were 2 more rounds, I'm sure they would have picked it right back up. And because that was a toss up round, that third round. Well,
can you imagine if it was like tough and the judge walks back and he's like, there's a 4th round, and just like randomly nobody expecting it? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we should do that.
So,
sorry, I just did the whole thing myself. My bad.
No, you're fine. One of my favorite teams in all of mixed martial arts is who?
Alpha Male.
Team Alpha Male, man. I've been Alpha
Male
since day one.
A1 combat.
But dude, watching André Fili makes me realize why Cody Garbrandt left. Makes me realize why TJ Dillashaw left.
Yeah.
Because I feel like André Fili has reached his full potential with Alpha Male.
Yeah.
This is it. I feel like he has all those pieces, man. He has the skill set. And then this isn't the first time where just the cornering, the coaching, where I feel like this could have been Fili's. But he goes into the third round thinking that he was winning the fight. And he's messing around and he's showboating and he's doing all these things. And then when they announced the fight, like they went in and I was thinking to myself, I was like, look, it's 1-1 right now, dude.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this third round
easily
wins the fight.
Yeah.
And he's showboating and, he's taking it easy and he's walking into Wood's jab and, come on,
Wood
man.
looked so good in that third round too. Just very patient, very like disciplined. He didn't overextend himself at all. Because last time he overextended himself with that combo, he got caught with that left hook. And he just fought really well in that third round to win on points, basically, in that third round. And, and especially with Fili's style, I think, and we've talked about this before. He probably should, we've talked about him leaving before. I just don't know if, like you said, if at this point in the game with him, with his style, I don't think that's the right camp. Even if he was just starting there, it just doesn't seem like a good fit for his striking style,
And so he posts this. He says, I thought I won. Judges didn't. Fuck them. No.
Yeah. Wood took that third round.
It was too close. It was too close for you to go in there with that energy, that attitude. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes down to Danny Castillo, and the rest of the team right there in the corner to be able to say, like, hey, dude, you're losing this fight.
Yeah.
You're losing this fight. If you lose this third round, you lost that fight. You need to go out there and you need to want it more than Nathaniel Wood.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think he's hearing that in the corner. And you've seen it before, too. Like I said, it's not the first time from a Team Alpha Male match where they're like, you're winning this fight. You're up 2-0. You're landing big shots. And it's like, what are you watching?
Yeah.
Don't put that in your fighter's head. It's so frustrating, man.
Yeah, and Fili's been on a number of these, like, close fights that were, like, winnable, Like winnable fights.
You said it earlier where you're talking about the fact that he just can't seem to finish the fight. Like he starts off strong, he's winning, he just can't seem to just get over the edge, right, and win that fight.
Yeah.
And I think that with the right people in his corner, with the right camp, he's just right there, man. He could break into the top 15 really quickly.
Yeah. How old is he now? 33. He's
Where do you send him? If you
I don't
pick a
know.
camp from right now, where would you send him?
HW Comer says
Hillcliff?
also I'll start a petition to honor Nate Diaz, ban all low kicks. I don't know where he goes, man. That's tough, but I mean, maybe Killcliff. Killcliff is just like it's just so big, they just have everybody there, so like it's hard not to just go somewhere like that. But I almost think somewhere like on the East Coast, like North, like Mark Henry or something like that, I think would do a good job with him just because he has such good combination skills. And I know Mark Henry's like one of the best at that and just developing complete new games for fighters based off their skill sets and just coming up with like crazy formulas that are specific to that fighter and not for like
Yeah.
the whole camp, But who knows?
I don't know. But dude, Fili just seems like such a loyal guy, and
Yeah. I mean,
I
and
don't
if you
know.
think you won, then why leave, right? You don't have to change anything.
I'm a big fan of Fili, and that's why I'm so frustrated, dude. Like I
Yeah.
enjoy watching him fight, and I think he has all the
Dude, when
potential
he
in the
gets
world.
moving,
Like yeah. All
yeah,
right,
and
man.
not to discredit Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood also is very promising. I don't think he should be a featherweight though. I really don't think he should be a
Ban him?
featherweight. Yeah, I think he should. I know he said the weight cut's way too hard, but like, dude, they look like completely different. They look. Andre Fili looks so much bigger
Massive.
than him.
Look massive compared to him
Yeah.
for sure. All right, let's move on to the next fight.
Yeah.
We had Paul Craig going up against Muniz.
Also, one of the few good fights on this card.
Yeah,
And
dude.
anytime you have guys who have like rudimentary striking, no disrespect, but very, very
Dang,
good
dude, that did
grappling.
sound disrespectful.
Yeah, it ends up being a banger, Like it always does. Like Colby Covington versus Kamaru, right? Especially at the first fight, like their striking's it's very basic, but they're incredible wrestlers, and they're like, let's just stand and trade then. And then in this fight, you got a little bit more grappling, which is really fun to watch because both of them, they were just hitting sweeps, really cool transitions, submission attempts, cool takedowns. Like it was just a very fun grappling match. And then on the feet, we actually got to see Paul Craig land some punches.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know.
Dude looked shredded at
the right
middleweight, by the way.
division from.
Yeah,
this is the right division.
I think so too.
And
I think so too.
Rich on the chat going freedom. Yeah. Is there anybody scarier than Paul Craig and stare downs?
Dude, that's the thing. I saw a comment that was like, you shouldn't be allowed to do stare downs like Paul Craig does if your fight tactic is to sit down and pull guard. So funny, dude. Because, dude, when they were even just announcing this fight, when they were doing the in the cage announcements, and he like walks over to Muniz, and Muniz walks up, and they're doing like a full on stare down with security in between them and stuff. And I was like, oh man, can't wait to see this jiu-jitsu match.
Did you see Bruce Buffer too? Like while he's announcing, he has his card out to keep his arm in between the fighters.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to read it as he's, like
it was a cool moment, honestly.
Oh, it was awesome, man. It was awesome. So it was again, I still think that Craig took a little too much damage in this fight still.
What do you expect?
I know this is his fight style.
All of a sudden?
I know this is his fight style, man, but it's like, man, can we have a Paul Craig fight where he's just not eating shot after shot, gets put in a tough position, ends up in a scramble where he ends up on his back and ends up being dangerous off his back?
Yeah. The finishing sequence in this fight. Oh, actually, before that, the headbutt. Because headbutts are going to be a running theme on this episode because this was a brutal one that I thought a point should have been taken for this one. Where 100%. Muniz has Paul Craig up against the fence in guard right there on the ground, and he literally just drives in with his head, tucks his chin, and just spears him in the face with his head. And Paul Craig's like, "What the fuck?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, he's Scottish. That's just like how they greet each other, so he's fine." But it's like, you got. I mean, what are we doing, man? That was a crazy headbutt. There was a few on this card. None of them got really the discipline that they should have. But despite that, they end up back.
Well, they don't know the rules, though. That's not their fault.
Yeah, true. Well, you get at least one warning, right? Paul Craig, they stand him up after the headbutt. They start again. Paul Craig has a great takedown. They both were just taking zero takedown defense from either of them, and I think it's probably because they're so comfortable on the ground. They're like, whatever.
Yep, exactly.
And Craig takes him down. Muniz has him in I forgot the what it's called, where you have one underhook and then one overhook, and you have the arm in on the overhook side, and their head is basically folded up against your chest, and he's just cranking that, and it's a nasty position, and you can hit a sweep from it, and you can see him once he locked that up on his grips. You see him fishing that the leg underneath, almost like a butterfly hook, so he can elevate Paul Craig, flip him over, and roll. But Paul Craig's like, I know exactly what you're doing. I'm going to let you think that you have the sweep. And then as soon as he elevates him, Paul Craig Gator rolls out of it, ends up in side control. I was like, this is awesome. What a great, like the grappling was so fun. Then he's in side control. He immediately attacks the Darce. This might be a new grappling meta, dude. Dricus du Plessis did the same thing against Robert Whitaker, unfortunately, where he attacks the Darce. And as soon as you start thinking about the Darce, you ditch it, and then you just drop a couple of elbows because you're in the perfect position to drop these elbows. Paul Craig does that a couple times, uses that to pass the mount, and then just beats the brakes off of them until they stop it. What a cool finishing sequence, though. Really cool
stuff. Yeah, man. Heck yeah. And I'm a fan of Paul Craig, man.
Me too.
You know, I think about
did my boy Shogun like that.
I think about the fight with Jamal Hill, right, where he beats Jamal Hill, and then afterwards they're out partying, and I'm like, dude, this seems like such a cool bear Jew.
I know, yeah. HB Commerce is a great fight. Went as expected. Muniz has cardio for one round. Yeah, I mean, and those big takedowns like that, back and forth, like, dude, that's gonna sap your gas tank. Even if you already have 1 round cardio, like, that's not the style of fight you want to be in, you know?
Yeah.
Like, trading takedowns, that's exhausting.
Oh man.
But
all right,
good job for Paul Craig. I do think, yeah, you're right. This is the weight class for him.
Oh, 100%.
He weighed 214, by the way, in the cage. 214. They fought at 185. They weighed in at 185.
Oh my god,
that is crazy.
That is insane.
Damn near 30 pounds.
This is where he has to stay, though, man.
Yeah.
He has to stay.
Yeah, I hope he felt good. I haven't heard what he talked about as far as like the weight cutting process and like how he felt after and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is the move for him.
All right. We can move on. We had Lerone Murphy versus Josh Culibao.
I thought we weren't covering this, but Murphy,
really?
I still think is a very high prospect. This fight was not as entertaining as I thought it was going to be, but it was decent. There were some fun exchanges. I think Lerone Murphy just has an insane fight IQ and just never allowed Culibao to even really get off and start working. But
dude, that's my bad because I thought you circled this one as one that we were covering. But yeah, you know, if you thought we weren't covering it, then let's move on, because on my notes I put down started falling asleep during this fight.
Real quick, I do want to talk about the phantom kick, the liver kick that Murphy landed in the 3rd round was fucking awesome.
Yes.
That was sick. I like Murphy a lot. I like Culibao a lot. He just Lerone Murphy, there's every once in a while there's those guys who will land their shots and immediately dive on the takedown, outwork you there. They break, they start hitting you with a couple more shots, take you down, and just a perfect MMA game plan followed, like executed perfectly. Doesn't always lead to the most exciting fights, but if I'm Lerone Murphy, I'm not really trying to be in wars, right? So props to him. I think this he has such a high ceiling, but he needs to like fight more because I think he's like 34 or something like that already. But I'm always excited to see him fight. Guy got shot in the face and spit the bullet out. So
gangster.
How can you not root for him?
50 Cent, man. All right. We can move on to a fight that we were expecting to talk about. We had Jonny Parsons versus Danny Roberts. Dude, the mullet mauler.
I had not seen him fight before. I guess he fought on the Contender Series, so that's why I didn't see him fight, because the Contender Series is awful to watch. But have you ever tried to watch the Contender Series?
No.
Dude, it is awful. And this is, I mean, dude, I watch random regional shows on YouTube if I see the live stream and stuff. But the Contender Series is just a slog, dude. It's all about betting. The whole show is about betting. So if you're into that, it's probably awesome. But it's tough to watch.
Man.
So I didn't really know much about Parsons in this fight. And you see him just walking him down in the Muay Thai stance. And Danny Roberts is smiling, and he's hitting him with all these shots, straight shots, moving out of the way, doing a fantastic job with his footwork. And Parsons just trying to get up close to him. And then every single time Parsons landed, it got major reactions out of Roberts. Major.
To the point where he was like, you know what? This me coming in and trying to balance out is not working. I'm still getting caught and I'm getting hurt. Like there's a few times where he had kind of like stumbled back to the fence. And he was probably thinking like, look, if I'm going to get dropped, I'm going to get dropped swinging.
At least
I'm not
going to
get dropped trying to. Yeah.
And his coaches are like, no, it's working. You might not think it's working, but it's working.
And he's like, nah, let me bite down on this mouthpiece real quick and start swinging from the hips. And that was so much fun to watch, man.
Yeah, dude. Parsons in the pocket is dangerous. That is not where you want to fight him. That is not, like I said, I've never seen him fight before, but he clearly has a ton of experience in that Muay Thai style, which is very up close and personal. Dude has cement in his hands and can find these little short shots where it looks like Roberts is like landing these nice fluid combos, but just that one little that boot punch from he just bonks him real quick and hurts him. Had him on skates. He's falling all over the place. It was crazy. And props to Roberts. He's tough, man. But got stopped with like 3 seconds left or something like that in the second round. Almost survived. Almost.
Does Mullet Mauler
reminds me of Marc Hunt kind of, dude.
He does, huh? Like a lighter Marc Hunt. I don't know. We gotta find a nickname for him.
Sluggernaut, dude. It's not a bad one.
Oh, there you go.
That's his nickname.
Yeah. It is a Sluggernaut?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not bad. Yeah, that's pretty good for him, I guess.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. I think the last fight we're going to cover from the UFC fight night is Joel Alvarez versus Marc Diakiese.
Yeah, and just what an unfortunate fight. And it was kind of fun while it lasted.
How does Marc Diakiese get his hair that bright red?
Dude, it's crazy. It's so deep. Saturated.
Yeah, I like it.
And remember I said if D1 Diakiese comes out, he's going to win this fight. And it looked like he was on his way. At the first round, it was a fun striking match. Joel Alvarez was landing the harder shots, though, getting reactions out of Marc. Second round, Diakiese was like, oh, yeah, I forgot I was a wrestler that turned into a striker. Let me just go back. And he takes him down multiple times.
Easy, too. Easy.
And that's what they're talking about in the booth. That's why I was like, if D1 Diakiese comes out, he's going to win this fight, because Joel Alvarez has never defended a takedown in his entire UFC career. Not once. So I was like, dude, if Diakiese's out there shooting for takedowns, he's going to get him. And he was. And he won the second round with his top control. And then this was the third round, right? Or was it at the end of the second? No, it was the end of the second.
Yeah.
He was winning the second round, I should say. They get back up, trading a couple times. They have a gnarly headbutt right to the back of the ear, right behind the ear.
He complains about it.
And Diakiese's like, hey, man, that was a bad headbutt. He's like wobbling back to the fence. And the ref's like, nope. And Joe Alvarez is like, okay, cool. Hits him with one punch, uppercuts him right to the dick. Ref also didn't see that. And Diakiese's just like, what's happening? And then he hits him with the knee. They go down. He hits him with the choke. I saw people clowning Diakiese for turning into the Darce. The dude is clearly concussed right now. Like, they talk about every time you get hit, you drop a belt in jiu-jitsu. So I don't blame him one bit. Because even after they read the decision out, which I thought for sure they were going to call it a no contest, just like the Bobby Green fight. I thought for sure they'd call it a no contest, but they didn't. After they announced Joel Alvarez won, they showed a replay of Diakiese almost falling over after they read the announcement. He was still like messed up, and people were like, "It's crazy to me that this continued as a win for Alvarez."
There's two things for me on that. There's two things for me on that one. One, Diakiese gets the headbutt. He looks at Alvarez and tells Alvarez to stop, like timeout.
Yeah,
dude.
Can't do that.
You know what? You can't do that.
Yeah.
The other thing, the ref fucked up because that was
pretty
clearly a headbutt. But the thing I respect about the ref is that if he did not see it, he didn't stop it based off the fighter telling him to stop.
Yeah, but maybe when this guy just lost half of his paycheck because of it, now I'm starting to think maybe the ref should still stop it and err on the side of caution.
Or
just do a better job in the first place.
Should have an earpiece in.
Yeah.
Because they have refs sitting around the octagon too. Dude, the ref can call it in, and the one sitting on the side of the octagon could say, "Hey, clear headbutt, stop the fight. Clear headbutt, stop the fight." Something.
If Pride could have a live feed of a ref cam on glasses in 2003, we should be able to have an earpiece for the refs.
And that's what I'm saying, right? But I respect the ref for not just seeing Diakiese put his hands up and like start complaining, and for him to be like, "Well, I didn't see anything, but stop. Are you okay?
Yeah.
What's going on? What happened? Headbutt? Oh, okay. Hey, timeout for headbutt." Because we see that all the time. Like Chris
That's
Tognoni,
true.
somebody will get punched in the eyeball, which is fair.
Yep.
Right, which is fair. And then they
like,
start complaining and and then Chris Tognoni will stop it right away. And then they'll go through and look at the video. The fighters get some rest, and then the guy that just got punched in the face that was hurt now gains an advantage because he had an opportunity to rest. So I'd rather see what happened last night where the ref didn't see it, he didn't stop it. Well, no, what I'd rather see is the ref actually do a good job. But in the case where he doesn't see it,
and I agree with you there, but then they have to make the right call after the fact when they can review the footage. The fact that this is now a submission loss for Diakiese and he loses half of his paycheck after this is for sure no contest.
Well, would he still get the other half of his paycheck even if it was a no contest?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't get show win money. But here's the headbutt.
Let me see.
Bam! Right behind
the ear.
I don't see it. And he's like, damn. And then you want to see the nut shot that no one talked about?
Yes.
This is right after the headbutt, by the way. Bam!
Boom!
And look, he's still holding his head from the headbutt.
Diakiese's like, "Is this UFC 1 rules? Are we going back to day 1? What is going on here?" Son? Yeah.
I mean, that nut shot was brutal, dude. If you don't see the headbutt, but you should be at least paying attention now.
Tough loss for Diakiese.
Right to the dick, man.
Yeah, tough loss for Diakiese.
It's a bummer. Feel for
All
him.
right. I guess from here we just go on to bonuses.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? They had 15 fights and we covered like 5 of them. I mean, what an awful card, huh? It was so bad, dude.
It was a rough night. And your boy had a long night because he was out at LFA in Belton watching our boy Landry Ward. Drove back in the morning. I was a little tired. So as I'm watching the fights, I'm like, please give me something. And I saw André Fili versus Muniz, and I was like, or versus Wood. And I was like, yes, there we go.
Yeah.
This is the energy I needed. And then, like I said, after that, I was just like, oh no. And like my energy bar started going down fight after fight. But yeah, let's talk about the bonuses, huh?
Yeah, bonuses. Roberts versus Parsons got fight of the night. I feel like Fili versus Wood maybe should have, but I think that third round probably soured them on it because it was a little slower. Yeah. Performance of the night, Paul Craig got one, and then Tom Aspinall got one, obviously.
How does
I feel like Parsons? I feel like Parsons should have got a performance bonus, and then you give Fili Wood the fight of the night. I feel like that would 100%. Be the better call. But I mean, doing it this way saves you $50,000.
Yeah, that is true. We all know about that budget, huh? But Roberts versus Parsons was definitely a fun fight too, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. How about this? How about they just all get bonuses, huh? Was that there was no canceled fights?
Crazy talk. I didn't see any
silence. Wow.
No, crazy, huh?
Maybe there should have been. Could have got some more interesting matchups.
But hey, now we're going on. We talked about the stressful weekend. We talked about the nerves, the anxiety. We've had friends on this podcast, Landry Ward, Andrew Toste, that have done multiple interviews that have covered for either you or me when we were gone. And they're active fighters. And now we get to talk about Landry Ward, right? So Landry Ward has, since day one, I saw him at XKO, and I think I told you on the podcast, you have to check Landry Ward out.
You texted me. You texted me while you were there.
I texted you while I was there. Yeah, I was like, you have to check him out. He's the real deal. And, you go to these regional shows, and you're like, hey, this was a fun fight. Okay, this person could probably be a regional champion. I saw Landry, and I was like, this guy's going to be in the UFC, man, and he's going to make some freaking noise. He's that good. You just see it right off the bat that there's levels, and you just saw him head and shoulders above everybody else at all these regional shows, right? So he goes to Combate Global, which is the largest Latin organization in mixed martial arts, goes on a tear there. El Gringo from Texas going up against
Texas.
Yeah, right.
He has a nice finish against Rocco, right? Or is it Roca?
Yes.
Roca.
Roca. And
where he beat the brakes off of him. Oh my god.
and now
He's over at Kill Clip FC now too.
He gets to call to LFA, right? And we all know LFA is a breeding ground for contender series fighters and, you know, a lot of short notice fighters and things like that, right? So this is a step in Landry getting closer to the UFC. So we already have that. The fact that, hey, we're getting closer, man. Like, here we go, right? Plus, Landry's a super cool dude. Every time he's been on the podcast, we just continue to learn more about him, his background, super down to earth, right?
Hold on.
Yeah, I honestly, I should be wearing my LSK shirt. I should have been wearing my LSK shirt. Yeah. And so we see all these things with Landry. We see the progression, and here comes the fight. LFA, it's coming through in Belton, Texas. Your boy here had to get tickets and a hotel immediately. As soon as I found out that they went on sale, I had to purchase those tickets to go support our boy Landry. And let me tell you, the fight did not disappoint. So the second that they call out, oh, here we go, throwing on the LSK merch. I should have had my LSK hat ready with me too, but
I'm like, only go to where I have all my hats. It was right next to me.
But the second they announced Landry Ward, the pop in the arena is insane, man. Talk about a homecoming for the Lone Star Kid.
The Lone Star Kid back in Texas. Yeah, it was sick, dude.
His first fight fighting, I think he said his first time fighting in Texas again, I think in 3 years or something like that. And man, it was amazing to hear, amazing to watch. By the way, this picture taken from my seat right there, like we're right next to.
Oh, you took this?
Yeah, I took this.
Oh, nice.
Right next to the whatever,
the ramp,
you know, where they walk out, the ramp. I guess you can call it the stage or whatever.
The runway.
So I'm watching Landry walk out. He's walking out to a song written by his dad.
Oh, no way. That's so sick.
Oh, my God. It's so good, dude. I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it, dude. But the goosebumps you feel being there, right, and seeing this guy walking out. And then you realize he's going up against a killer, man. You know.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it before, right, where you were like, hey, man, so the guy they got him up against is like, I heard that he's like a wild dude. Like he like caution to the wind type fighter, just like just a wild dude. And I was like, oh man, that's a double-edged sword, because we were like, he might be able to get like a nice like highlight reel off this guy if he's wild. And I was like, I don't know, man, that's a double-edged sword if you're wild, because it goes both ways. You either leave yourself open and you get caught with something, or you're a wild man and you hurt the other.
You land something.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, I was so nervous, dude. When he started walking out, I was like, oh my god, let's go.
I know, man. I know. So the fight starts, right? And right off the bat, Landry has some good footwork going. His jab's landing a couple times. You do see some of that wildness from Pereira, you know, where he's leaving himself open and extending quite a bit. And he sets himself up where Landry is able to land. Was it a big left or a big right? I can't remember.
Actually, no, he goes 1-2 and he hurts him. And he's like, nah, whatever. He's like, come on, give me another one. And then he sets back for a second. And then as soon as he takes a step forward, he hits him with another one and just completely drops him. And it was such a cool sequence, because it's just bop, bop. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then walks forward again and then bop, bop, and drops him.
He's like, oh.
He's like, damn.
Rich, can you play the clip? Because we have this short clip here. And are we able to play this? Is it going to get taken down?
It's on their Instagram. There's that one where he waves it on.
And then boom, bam. Look at that. And you can see he is hurt. He lands that big right. And then Landry throws his big left and just misses. Right there. Just missed. Yeah. If he would have landed that left, it would have been over, man. It would have been over.
Yeah, I liked so this was this in the second round, I think? I don't remember.
I believe that was in the first.
Was it the first?
Yeah, I believe that was in the first.
Maybe it was. But yeah, they end up going to decision. And I was like, man, this is close, because it was a back and forth fight. That was by far the biggest moment in the fight. But Fajeda was landing some good punches too himself throughout. And his post-fight interview was so good. It was so good, dude. Because Landry, like, he's a very reserved guy, you know? Like outside of fighting, right? Like he's a very calm, cool, collected, like very reserved guy. And then he hops on the mic and he just calls out the UFC and calls out everybody, and it was like
Dana,
it was just
Mick,
perfect.
Sean,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
oh
great,
man.
dude. And he was like, yeah, like I heard him good, like, and I just thought like I want to stay calm, don't go too hard for the finish and gas myself out. And he's like, I went a little too hard. And then I was like, dude, he's killing it, dude, just killing it. It was just all around just a fantastic night. That like made my night. That was Friday night.
That was Friday night,
Shout
man.
out
I'm
Landry
telling you, when I tell you I was pumped, man. I was so pumped. And the longer we do this, we have Derwin Lamb that had his fighter
Yeah,
Fernandez on there too. And so seeing Derwin Lamb out there,
I saw him in the walkout. I was like, oh shit, that's the
yeah, we got
boy.
Derwin, another
He
friend
got
of
the win.
the podcast. Got the win. My guy Milko Tukto, which
Tiktok.
was fighting as well. Different story, rough night, right, for Milko, but
Yeah,
still props for stepping out there. And then
of course.
again, Landry, cherry on top, man, for the night. That honestly was the people's main event. Because if you would have been there, dude, and you heard the crowd,
yeah,
compared to any other fight, it was Landry's night, man. It was his event.
I did stop watching after his fight. That was my main event for LFA.
That's the people's main event, man. So hey,
yeah,
props to friend of the podcast, Landry Ward, absolutely deserved. If you don't follow Landry Ward, follow him on Instagram. I believe, what is it, LSK or Lone Star Kid or
Lone Star Kid, yeah.
Yeah, and you see all the work
you can
that
pick
he
up
puts
these
in.
hats.
Yeah. Fantastic logo. But
It's
again,
such a good logo, dude, for him.
it's so good. It's so good. But great fighter. He's in a great camp. Great guy. Make sure you follow LSK. And dude, I'm telling you, after that work on the mic, after the exciting fight, because you know what, he had to dig deep too, man. He had to dig deep.
Wasn't a walk in the park.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
You
The jab started landing for Pereira as well, and it was a close fight. It was a split.
Yeah, it was a close fight. It was split. And going into the decision, I was like, I don't know. And I was talking to people on Reddit, and I was like, hey, shout out Landry Ward, watch him, like he's the real deal, all this stuff. And people were like, oh man, that was a great fight. And it was just cool. It was just a cool Friday night.
All right, and I think that's all we got for LSK, the Lone Star Kid. Super happy for him. And now we move on to another friend of the podcast. We continue talking about the nerves that we feel. We had Friday night. Oh my God, we're super nervous. Just tense, right? Watching the fight. And then we move on to the next morning, Saturday morning, a little time to recoup. And come Saturday night.
Boring UFC fights.
And you have Andrew Toste, another friend of the podcast. He's filled in for me. He's filled in for you. He's going into A1 championship, right? Uriah Faber's A1 Combat.
Yep. For the first ever.
Look at this picture. The
dude,
silhouette.
It was so sick getting to watch him walk out with it. I mean, it was just so cool.
Hey, Will,
but
can we make a shirt of this silhouette with these colors this that says Toasty on top?
I'm sure. Let's do it.
Wouldn't
but anyway, so he gets the call for A1 Combat, and it's he's still amateur, right? But it's for the first ever amateur title that A1 Combat has ever done, because A1 does amateur show and then they go on to Fight Pass for their pro show. But this is for an amateur belt, the first ever amateur belt at A1 Combat. And Jim Cooley's he's like a part owner of A1 with Uriah Faber. That's the guy that I did commentary for
he's part owner.
Commentary with. I believe so. Because when I was doing commentary with him.
Partner?
Yeah. Because when I did commentary with him at CCFC in Santa Cruz, where Toste defended his belt, right? The amateur belt over in Santa Cruz. And when I was talking to him, he was telling me about like A1 Combat. He just did A1 Combat the night before, and he was talking about how he's working with Uriah on it for like a bunch of different things. So I think he's head up. He's not just the commentator there. And it was cool watching the stream because they're talking about, all right, this is the main event of the prelims, first ever title fight for amateurs in A1 Combat history. And he's like, I got to match make this. And when they said they want to do an amateur belt, the first person I thought was Andrew Toste, and I was like, yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's so
sick, dude.
sick.
It was just so cool. And then so he's like, I called him immediately. The guy he was supposed to fight pulled out. Nicholas Kalunga steps in. They fight at
Undefeated,
bantamweight.
3-0.
Yeah, and they fight at bantamweight at 135. Toste normally fights 145, 155. I texted him when I saw after the weigh-ins. I texted him. I was like, dude, how do you feel at 135? And he's like, I almost quit like 6 times last night. And I was like, fuck.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh man, dude, that's a hard cut because we've seen him fight at 155.
Yeah.
And then he goes out there and they put on such a great fight, dude. They're trading shots, trading punches, excellent scrambles. And man, it was just so cool to see because in the past, when we've seen Toste lose in his losses, it's usually from later on in the fight getting taken down and someone just kind of controlling, right?
Yeah.
And in this fight, there was, and I'm not saying he's accepting that position in those because I know how hard it is to get out of those positions. But in this, there was zero hesitation. Anytime he would get taken down, he's working off something. You know, his back was never flat against the ground. He's working angles. He's cage walking. He scoots back to the cage to get back up. Like just 100% urgency. And I talked to him a little bit last night after the fight, but we should have him on so we can talk about it in depth. But I wonder how he felt at 135 and if he had just like a ton of energy at 135 somehow. Because
Did they fight at 145 though? I thought
he said that, but he was wrong. Jim
Okay.
Cooley said that, but yeah, they were wrong. They fought at 135. And then in the third round, it's like, oh man, this is pretty close fight. In the third round, Toste gets on top, he mounts him, and you see him trap the arm like this.
Yes.
And once he has the arm trapped, he has it with the far side grip, and he starts to posture up. I was like, dude, he's gonna get the finish here.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna, because you could see anytime Toste was on top, he postures up and he starts throwing bombs. It wasn't just like control. It was, I'm trying to get you out. And we've seen him win through ground and pound before, right? Ground and pound to a choke usually, right? And this was no different because he postures up full mount, has the arm trap. He's just blasting right hands, and then ends up letting go of the arm and just trading shots, alternating shots. Steps over with the right leg. The old trick that one of my favorite tricks in full mount is when you post that right leg, and then the guy who's on bottom's like, there's some escape right there, and they'll feed their arm to get like an underhook on your leg to try to scoot out that back door, but all that does is just get your leg right in position for a triangle, and you just roll with them. And so his leg's up, and that kind of happens. He gets swept, but immediately locks up the triangle, and I was like, holy shit. And then I love when people do this, and it's great when it's your friend who does it. But as soon as he locked up the triangle, he reaches up, grabs the shin, pulls it down, locks it, like really locks it, postures back, and just starts throwing hooks because your head is just stuck there. Yep. Throwing hooks until Kalunga tries to like maybe try to block those, and then he just grabs that arm, throws it across, grabs his legs, and pulls him in close, gets the choke. What a fun sequence that was. From the arm trap to the ground and pound to the sweep to triangle and the punches, and then it was like Paul Craig versus Muniz, just a very fun, like all the steps in the sequence was just really cool to see. You know, you don't get that very often.
The transitions from Toste were beautiful, man. Not only was he doing really well off his back and getting a lot of sweeps, but when he was in top mount or full mount, and then Kalunga was trying to escape and roll out, like Toste did such a good job of taking whatever Kalunga was giving him, not forcing any one position, just accepting the different position Kalunga would be in and then working off of that. So it was just a beautiful performance for Toste, man.
And
that big right he landed too. I was like, ooh, my boy got hands.
Yeah. And Jim Cooley's great on commentary. Corey McKenna, UFC fighter Corey McKenna out of Alpha Male, obviously. Is also doing commentary with him, and she's seeing it. She's like, "Oh, beautiful! Like the setup of this triangle." And like as he's getting swept, Jim Cooley's like, "Oh, a reversal!" But while he's saying it's a reversal, Corey McKenna's like, "Oh, what a beautiful triangle setup!" And it was like, "This is so sick." And then the way Jim Cooley called the finish of the fight too was just like, I got goosebumps when he called it. Actually, Rich, I think we have the clip. We should have the clip. If you want to play that, just the YouTube link.
Hopefully, we don't get taken down.
I don't think we'll get taken down. It was on YouTube.
Oh,
the stream was on YouTube.
All
Rich,
right.
do you have that link? Should be in the private chat.
Maybe not.
Yeah, my bad. I thought you had it, but I got it.
Okay. Yeah, if I can't share with audio.
Oh
Firefox
man, I love it
Press.
when Rich hops on, even if it's just for a few seconds.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So, like you said, first Emmy title. Look at that, holding the belt. Just fantastic for Toste. Oh, here we go.
That Kalunga's there and he is threatening with stuff, and it does
He's got the
allow
arm
him
traps.
to open up scrambles and
Yeah,
Look
that
at
wrist
that.
control.
Absolutely. Toste on top, landing big shots. He's got that, or had that right arm pinned. Here comes Andrew Toste. He wants that A1 gold, and he wants it bad.
You can keep the volume where it's at, Rich.
Look at Culibao with the
Beautiful
reversal, but he might have got caught in the
triangle
triangle.
You hear McCann, a beautiful
And
triangle roll.
Toste landing shots from the
at
bottom. The
those
crowd is
shots.
going nuts.
Beautiful job. That is deep. He got the arm across. He's got everything
There
locked
it
up.
is.
That might be it.
Toste looking for A1
There he
gold, and he's
taps.
Look
gonna
at
get
that.
it. Andrew
Toste looking for
has
A1
landed
gold,
a
and he's
triangle
gonna
choke
get
in the first ever A1
it
Combat
playing, Rich.
Amateur title bout.
Oh
Here
my
at
First
goodness.
ever A1 Combat Amateur
12.
title. Come
Hard Rock
on.
Casino Resort, Andrew Toste has made history. Nico
And then they show the
Culibao, he was a
replay
very
here,
game
too.
opponent. He looked very good coming out of Last Stand Fight Team, but he picks up the victory here tonight.
Maybe skip forward like 5
and becomes
seconds,
the
Rich.
first ever A1
'Cause I
Combat
think we
Amateur
they're
champion.
playing some music a
the
little
roll
bit. Oh yeah, look
and,
at this.
Like locking up that triangle. You know, he
Big
steps
shots
over
from
the arm
Toste
here,
up top.
and as he turns, he actually goes
Hammer
with
See his
him.
arms
He
already
didn't
set up.
Roll him here.
Yep.
He rolled with him. So he
Damn.
almost like let him
And then
feel
he
like he was
lights him
escaping.
up.
He used that to lock up the triangle. He caused some damage to distract
And then
him.
grabs
got
the arm once he gives
across,
it to him.
And that was all she wrote.
Just perfect.
Beautiful.
So your first ever
Beautiful.
A1
And your
amateur
first
title holder
ever A1
will be
amateur title
Andrew
holder.
Toste.
How cool is
Absolutely,
that,
guys.
man?
He has made
Look at the way he
history.
walks
Feeling
off with
that,
his
Rich.
arms up. Look at that. Oh my god.
I mean, come on, dude. How cool is that?
Goosebumps, man. Goosebumps.
Just
So
beat the brakes
super
off
happy
him, man.
for
Come on, dude.
Toste. Look at the picture of him holding that first Emmy belt for A1 Combat.
First
Well
ever
deserved.
amateur belt under Uriah Faber's organization, dude. Come on. That might not mean as much to everybody else, but like being from California, like it's so sick, dude. Uriah Faber, like it's just so like it's awesome. It's so sick.
It's amazing. So congratulations, Andrew Toste, making SOF super proud. And can't wait to have him on again so we can talk about it. Same thing with Landry. I
Yeah.
would love to be able to go through a couple of clips so he can walk us through his fight. Same thing with
Definitely.
Andrew Toste. And then we'll go from there, man. But man, what a weekend, huh?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
Man.
yeah. And next weekend's gonna be crazy too. Not
Yeah,
as
is that the,
not as personal, but it is
Yeah,
gonna be crazy.
no personal relationships with anybody in UFC 291. Although that would be cool.
No.
We can hang out with Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, I did one
Or,
time.
or
Billy
Alex
did-
Pereira. Just
or Alex.
I'll
Pereira.
chill with him.
Man, Tapology needs to change the Justin Gaethje, huh? That picture.
Which one?
It's like,
Oh, yeah.
It's from when he was in World Series of Fight for sure. That's got to be pre-UFC. But we got UFC 291. We got Bellator versus Ryzen 2. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Great
it's
stuff.
gonna be a good weekend of fights once again.
they
But
said-
we have Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, Jan Blachowicz
Mm-hmm.
versus Alex Pereira, Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green, Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. That should be a fun one. How about, hey, can we
Be
not
fun.
give Kevin Holland a grappler anymore?
I know, seriously.
Please.
Yeah, we got Wonderboy versus Michelle Pereira. Got bumped to the main card because Paulo Costa was never actually going to fight, even though they put him on the card for some reason. Derek Lewis versus De Lima. Trevin Giles is going to face the Bonfim brother. Hopefully he
Gabriel
can do a little
Bonfim.
better. Roman Kopylov, dude. I don't know where he's been, but that guy is. I am so high on this dude. The Russian Chase Hooper with
man.
hands.
I mean, yeah.
CJ Vergara is fun
card.
to watch. Jake Matthews versus Flowers should be decent.
Miranda
Semelsberger
Maverick.
versus Medic is going to be fun.
How dare you skip over Miranda Maverick
Why
versus
wouldn't I?
Priscilla Cachoeira? How dare you? All right. So that should be another fun weekend. And Hey, thank you, HOB Comer, for joining us live. It's always
he
fun
says
when you jump on with
UFC
us, man.
291 predictions video.
Do it, he said. Do it. I'm down.
I'm
Are
down.
you down, Will?
I am.
Rich, are you down? We'll see.
I'd
but
like
yeah,
to see Rich's picks also.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be
Let's see
interesting.
what happens. What if Rich just has like some weird like savant thing where like he doesn't even know any of the fighters, but for some reason he has some like algorithm in his brain that even he can't just like explain, but he's just 100% on all his picks, and we just like make a ton of money off Rich's picks.
That'd be awesome.
We just have a
man.
new
That'd be
segment,
awesome.
Rich's picks.
That'd be perfect, actually.
Only one way
give
to
us
find
more
out.
Content. More content.
Only
Only one way to find out. All right. But again, thank you, HOB Comer. Shout out LSK, Lone Star Kid. Shout out Andrew, Toste. We're trying to reach 3,000 subscribers, y'all. So please let your friends and family know if they like MMA to tune into the podcast. I think we're at 2,600 right now or something like that.
We're close, dude. It's like 2,650, I think.
Steadily climbing, yeah. But that's all I got. Do you have anything else for this week?
No. Other than this podcast was produced by Richard Bustos.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another week of Story of the Fight.